Welcome to the ultimate sword buyer's guide. If you own a sword, you need to watch this video. There's a ton of different questions when it comes to swords, so we're gonna break each of them down into their own section. In this video, we're gonna go over different types of sword tangs, how to properly disassemble a katana, and proper katana care. So let's get started.
When you're looking at swords, you'll probably hear some terms like full tang, partial tang, rat tang, and I know what you're thinking. Rats can use swords? Yes, they can, but that's not what tang means. When you see a sword like this, you might think that the hunk of metal that makes up the blade stops right here. It doesn't. There's a section that continues on into the handle. We call that the tang. The tang is meant to keep the blade from breaking off and flinging itself into the neighbor's fence every time you swing. And we have different names for it depending on how far that blade metal extends into the handle. A full tang means that the sword is all just one piece of metal. It's pretty simple. The blade metal extends all the way down through the entire length of the handle. The blade isn't welded to the rest of the sword. The blade is the rest of the sword. Full tang swords are stronger, more stable, and give you more leverage than a sword with a partial or a rat tang. This is the kind you'll want if you're doing any cutting or slicing. Partial tangs are a little bit more complicated. A partial tang can be anything from a stub, to a half tang, to a 3/4 tang. Some partial tangs see the blade of the sword just welded on after them. Because of how complicated they are, you always want to check to make sure what kind of partial tang you're getting. After all, you wouldn't want to find a rat in your tang. Why would there be a rat in my tang? Rat tangs are a type of partial tang that look, you guessed it, like a rat's tail. Just in case you want your sword to feel like a New York City subway system. Get it because of the wraps? This part is really important because it could save your life, the life of your neighbor, and the life of your neighbor's fence. Seriously guys, he's really starting to get mad at me. With a full tang sword, you can use it for things like cutting water bottles or obliterating tatami mats, which you can find on our website. Full tang swords are built strong, so you shouldn't have to worry about your blade randomly disconnecting or snapping when you swing. Partial tang swords are not built for cutting. If you swing them hard enough, they will snap. Trust me, this is a bad idea.
And the nice thing about these practice katanas, oh, that hurt.
These swords should be used for display, costumes, cosplay. They were not built to be used as a performance weapon. If you are my neighbor, I am so sorry about the fence. I swear this is the last time that I'm gonna mention it. So before you go swinging around your sword like Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, make sure you know the difference between a full tang and a partial tang. Now I have to be fair, sometimes this will be difficult to tell. Hopefully wherever you get your sword from will tell you whether it's full or partial tang. Now for us here at Mini Katana, we don't want you to have to worry about something like that, so we tell you up front what kind of tang the sword has. On our website, you can easily filter which swords have full and partial tang on the left of the screen. We also have a filter for blade performance where you can select whether the sword is battle ready or not. If it's battle ready, you can do sweet cuts like this. Now with our katanas, there is another way to check. On the handle, look for 1 or 2 small bamboo pegs. These pegs are called mekugi, and if your katana has them, there's a pretty decent chance that it's full tang.
Now it's time to go over how to disassemble a katana. Here is what you need: a pool noodle, a hammer, a mekukunuki from our katana cleaning kit, gloves, a small block of wood, and 9 bags of kanpai candy. Okay, before we get started, we have like over 300 swords in the katana house, and not once have we ever had any reason to take one apart. So unless you dropped your sword in a fish tank and you need to dry out the tang, there is really no reason to take this thing apart. It is fun to do just like once to look at it, but other than that, just don't do it. So now let's do it. First, you're gonna put on your gloves. Then you're gonna unsheath your sword and carefully slide on your pool noodle, making sure the pool noodle follows the curvature of the blade. And now we can hold on to the blade and not be worried. Then you're gonna grab your mekukunuki, this tiny hammer, and hammer out the mekugi. If you don't know what the mekugi are, they're the tiny bamboo pegs that hold your sword together, and they're found on the handle. Once the mekugi get too deep into the handle, there's a tiny tool at the tip of your mekukunuki that unscrews, and you can use this to help you finish hammering out the mekugi. And there's our first mekugi. Some katanas have 2 mekugi and some only have 1. This one has 2, so we get to do that again. And there's our second mekugi. So now you should be able to pull your handle off, but if it is stuck, you're gonna get your nifty block of wood and place it on the blade side of your suba and wedge it in with your pool noodle. You're gonna do a couple taps on each side until it loosens up, so. And there we go. Now that it's loosened, everything just slides right off. That is what the tang of a blade looks like, and now you don't have to take apart your sword. And now to put it back together, you just put everything back on in the reverse order. And if your handle doesn't want to go back on, you can actually just use gravity. So you're gonna get a nice hard surface that is softer than wood, and literally just drop this and the blade goes right back on. Now let's hammer back in our mekugi. Then you're gonna unnoodle your sword, apply a fresh coat of blade oil from our cleaning kit, and resheath your sword. And now you know how to disassemble your katana.
Now that your sword is put together, it's time to play with it. Yeah! But not so fast, because there's a lot of important things that you need to know before you ruin your katana. Now it's time for you to learn how to properly care for your sword. First up, storage. Like all things in life, the environment you grow up in is key to having a well-rounded life. And it's no different when raising a katana. But mini katana aren't swords just pieces of metal. No, swords are not just any kind of metal, and if you leave it out, you can ruin your blade. Katanas are very gentle creatures and need a very specific environment to live in to stay premium. Our katanas and swords should be kept in a climate-controlled environment that isn't super duper hot or super duper cold. And also, this is the important one, isn't too humid. Because sayas are made of genuine wood, they can grow and shrink based on the heat and humidity. So if you're having problems with this, maybe try keeping your katana in the right climate. There's a little vent on the ground right there, and all the swords in that area are really cold all the time, and it's honestly not good for them, so don't do that. Now that you know how to take care of your katana, I'm gonna show you how to clean your katana. So let's say you just victimized an entire family of watermelons, and now you have a dirty, nasty blade. I'm gonna show you what to do. First thing you're gonna need is a katana cleaning kit. Inside this is some cloth, a new Chico ball, blade oil, and some other doohickeys that we don't need right now. The first thing you wanna do, especially if you just sliced, is take your cloth out and just wipe the blade off, get all that nasty gunk off of it. So if you got any dirt, any watermelon juice, give that a couple of wipes, pinching the blade facing away from you. Now, I know what you're thinking, what on earth is that orange ball that he is smacking on that sword? Now, this ball is full of something called Uchiko powder, which basically just reduces the amount of moisture on your blade. So any excess moisture that was in the air or on that watermelon is now gonna be gone. And that is exactly what you want because you don't want rust. Now, using a new cloth that isn't all nasty and covered in watermelons, you're gonna pinch the blade facing away from you and wipe that Uchiko powder off. Now, the third and most important step, blade oil. Put your blade oil on some rice paper, tissue paper, just another cloth or something. And then again, pinch the blade facing away from you and lube that bad boy up, making it nice and shiny. Because this oil is gonna prevent moisture from hitting your blade and prevent it from rusting. And now you know how to properly clean your katana. So let's say your katana handle has become completely untied and now you have to retie it. Well, this is the section for you. But before we even get into this, I just wanna know how this happened because I've taken swords into the woods and survived for days. And even then the handle stayed on. Trust me, this will take you hours. But luckily I came prepared with my tools of kampai candy and a chicken sandwich. I also have these little grabbers that could come in handy. And some headphones because I'm gonna lock in for the next hour and a half. Now, if you're like me and you're using a katana handle that just kind of came loose and you're reusing the exact same cord, this should give you a pretty good advantage because it's already folded in the places that you need and you can still use the stickiness on the side as an advantage. Trust me, this is really, really helpful. If you don't have this, just add some double-sided tape or some like kind of sticky but not too sticky glue to the top and bottom of your katana handle right here and right here where the raised skin isn't. And this will help the fabric stick on there and stay in place while you wrap the handle. That's what these are for as well. These are also quite useful. Anyways, I'm gonna lock in and switch to voiceover Tyler while he tells you what to do. Place the center of the cord on the center of the handle and pinch it there so it doesn't slide around. Then flip the handle to the other side, again pinching the edges of the handle where you have your sticky stuff. Next is where the style of the famous katana handle comes in. Rotate the fabric 2 times and place it back down. Then grab the fabric from the other side of the handle and repeat, rotating 2 times and placing it down. Continue this process until you are all the way at the end of the handle and you should have a beautiful looking sword. But keep about 1 inch of slack that we will use to tie it off. Now that you have the majority of your handle wrapped, it's time for the hard part, which is the end. Normally, you're gonna want like a bunch of sewing kit stuff and some hooks and things that your mom might have, but for now, I'm gonna try to do it with just this hammer that comes in our cleaning kit. But you'll start by tucking one of your loose ends under the wrapped handle. Using a small stick for this is useful. Then tuck the other end under the wrap, but above the fabric that you just stuck under. Then take this fabric and do a loop-de-loop back over the main wrap. You'll want to trim this end if it's too long and take the fabric that you just pushed under, then flip this piece back over the wrap so it does a loop-de-loop and shove the rest under the main wrap. And then you should be left with only one end dangling. Take that loose dangling end and shove it inside the loop-de-loop that you just made. Again, cutting some excess fabric if it's necessary. And that is how to wrap your handle. And if you want to see how to unwrap your handle, watch this video where we destroy our swords in the wilderness.